Boston really overachieved, I think. I mean, you mentioned a lot of question marks last year, all the rookies that played prominent roles. You weren't sure how it was going to play itself out. A lot of things worked out to the positive. Now I got to go do it again.
And just to follow up on that, too, it was a lot of young players sort of coming into their own ahead of, you know, expectations or earlier than expected.
Was good. DeBrusk was good. Heinen was good. All these guys stepped up and played as well as they could have hoped.
What's the likelihood then that all of those young players take the next step forward this season?
Very, very low. I mean, not that they're not good players.
That's not a bad thing.
No, that's just players just don't head straight up. I mean, there's going to be little blips. I mean, a couple guys will have good years. A couple guys might take a step back. A couple guys will plateau and do the same kind of thing. That's the nature of being a professional athlete. Not every year gets better than the previous one, even if it's just your second year. Whether we want to call it sophomore slump or whatever you want it to be, probably some of those guys might not do quite as well. But the good thing about Boston, the way they're built, is that they do have all that depth. Now, a big part of that depth was that third-line center spot. You asked about Riley Natch's departure, but if they can find an adequate replacement for him, then you can roll 3 really good lines and kind of rely on balanced scoring. The first line is great. We know it's just incredible, maybe the best in the league, but everyone else just kind of can chip in with 15 to 20 goals, and all of a sudden there's more than enough offense to go around. And maybe Anders Bjork, the one rookie who maybe didn't quite thrive last year at the NHL level, but has NHL talent, maybe he finds himself moving up the roster and doing this year what a lot of guys did last year.
I like that. That's a really good point. On the back end, we talked a little bit about it with Matt. Who do you expect will be the odd man out here?
Well, I mean, it's going to be difficult to say because if you think you have McAvoy and Chara, you got Krug and Brandon Carlo, you got Kevin Miller in the back, and then I guess John Moore, because he has the big contract, you have to assume he's going to play. But Matt Grzelcyk was really pretty good last year, and a smaller guy, but very shifty and moved the puck out of his own end very nicely. Adam McQuaid's got a decent contract on him as well. Those are 2 pretty good players not playing if it plays out the way and everyone stays healthy. So competition will be fierce, and it's not often you see NHL caliber competition across the board at training camps. Everyone kind of gets slotted. Maybe there's some rookies, some free agents working for 1 or 2 available spots. Those are all NHL defensemen. And a couple of them have played a long time. Adam McQuaid's not new to the league. He's a veteran. And now he's going to play for maybe a spot on the roster, let alone in the lineup. If they don't want to carry Matt Grzelcyk trying to take steps forward in his career, let's see he has a great training camp. You're going to sit down John Moore, the guy who just signed to a long-term. It'll be interesting to watch because it'll get intense, and it should be.
You talk about the competition being fierce on the blue line. It could be that way between the pipes as well. Obviously, Tuukka Rask is the #1 guy in Boston. He is their guy. But Halak is no slouch, and you know Halak. I mean, I
played with Yarrow in Montreal.
Is he a competitive guy? Is he a guy that's going to want to get a good chunk of games?
Now, I was around him when he was younger, and so hopefully he's probably matured because in his role as the backup, his personality that he showed when he first got to the Montreal Canadiens would not be ideal because he was arrogant and confident in a good way. That kind of confidence.
That's how you get good. Let's be honest.
He wants the net. He doesn't want to back up anyone. He wants the net. He believes that he's the best option. Now, you're going up against Tuukka Rask. You're in your 30s. You've seen a lot of different things over the years. So I don't think he's going to approach it with that kind of mentality. But I do believe he's a better goaltender than he showed last year. I think he fell victim to some of the holes in the Islanders' defensive game. So if you put him behind a very stout defensive team in Boston, I bet he can give 20, 22 starts of quality backup goaltending and give Tuukka Rask the kind of rest that I think Rask probably needs at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people buy into that, too, that Rask just performs better with less of a workload, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think most goalies are like that, though, Jackie. I think the numbers bear out. Very few guys can play up close to 70 games and still be at their best. I think the ideal number is kind of 62 to 66, and Tuukka Rask falls into that category. I don't think, while he has shown himself to be physically capable of playing 70 games, I think to get the best out of him throughout the regular season, and maybe as importantly into the playoffs, is to make sure to mix in some off games. So you do that when you have a good team and you don't have to grind over every single point, which I think Boston should have. And you do that when you have a backup that the coaches trust and the players trust that can get you points. And I think they have that in Yaroslav Halak. So it should be a good duo. It's always interesting how the starter backup personality dynamic? Do they get along? How do they support each other? Because that's a big part about being a backup to an established starter like Tuukka Rask.
And what I love about this time of year is that last year at this point, people didn't have high expectations of the Boston Bruins. This year, after a trip to the Eastern Conference Final,
we're expecting
expectations a little bit higher. We'll see how the Boston Bruins
kind of thing again.
and their youth handle those expectations.